Good morning, my dear friends in Jesus Christ. On this 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C 2022, we are invited to reflect on how to become a disciple of Christ today. In fact, Christ in the Gospel passage outlines three important requirements for one to be a true disciple. How can one give up all his possessions to follow Christ today? What are the four characteristics for the one who is not a disciple of Christ today? What is the meaning of the term head? The father, mother, and the children in this context. Finally, what are the three lessons learned from today's readings? In this 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C, Gospel reading, Jesus still heading to Jerusalem there. There is a great crowd that is following him. He turns around. He notices a large crowd with fathers, mothers, and children carrying their things on their heads, maybe expecting liberation from the political yoke, maybe expecting to be fed as previously they had been fed with bread and fish, or even the sick who are expecting to be healed. Dear friends, Jesus profits to teach them on the cost of being a disciple. Looking at this large crowd that following Jesus, we can say that Jesus brings a revolutionary attitude towards him in two ways. Namely, first, to move being friends of him and to being witnesses to the good news. Second, from being just witnesses to a lifelong commitments as true disciples. On the other hand, Jesus and lines of gospel this Sunday, there are three requirements to be a disciple. Of course, he backs up his explanation with two parables for the crowd to understand his teachings. Anyhow, what are the three requirements? First, to detach from the family. Second, to carry one's own cross. And finally, to give up all possessions. Now, my dear friends, let us examine each of the conditions in a more detailed way. First, to detach from the family. The family is the base of the charge of the society at large. As a disciple, one is expected for understanding the peace and the unity in the family. But, my dear friends, Christ here is proposing that disciples should hate his mother, father, and family, and it is he. Is it possible? Did Jesus himself hate parents in pastoral world? No, never. There is nowhere that he mentioned he hated his family. Then what is Jesus suggesting today? The usage of the term hate in this context explains and clarifies it all. The most probable equivalent word as originally used would be to prefer. In fact, the French lectionary in today's gospel uses the word préférer, which means to prefer. This word prefer in this context means to break away or to detach. Therefore, Jesus invites us to detach from our biological families and to belong to ecclesiological family as one people of God. Dear friends, if a family is associated with holy alliances, such as to gun up and to do something to neighbor. A disciple should detach of him or herself from such a family. Second, to carry one's own cross. My dear friends, a disciple is to offer himself despite the risks of following Christ. In this life, everyone has a cross to carry. A cross could be sickness. A cross could be the current situation in life. A cross could be an alcoholic member in the family. So, let us carry our own crosses with hope, faith, and love, and try to overcome and to become victorious. Because unless there is night, there is no day. Unless there is Good Friday, there is no Easter Sunday. Remember, what cannot kill you leaves you strong. My dear friends, the final condition to be a disciple is to give up possessions. This is an invitation to detach from the material things. For instance, there was a priest who worked in a hospital in Kenya. He visited a patient there who was a village member of that priest. Priest greeted and blessed the patient. So patient was so happy. He had a good smile in his face. But after the prayer, patient has asked from the priest, "How are my cows, goats, and how are my chicken doing?" So the priest never thought of a question like that. But priest understood how he has occupied with his possessions, with his material things, and what he has. As a disciple, to have material things is not bad, my dear friends, but how one make use of them is the difference. A disciple uses the material things as a means to enjoy God and not to enjoy material things at the expense of neglecting God. Furthermore, in the gospel passage today, Christ speaks of 3 conditions but finish with the commanding or rather warning statement, "Cannot be my disciples. Cannot be my disciples." Here Jesus warns. The question is, who is not a disciple of Christ today? Who is not a disciple of Christ today? First is one who listens to Christ through the Bible but does not put his teaching into practice. He is not a disciple. Second is the one who avoids sufferings, whereas Christ tells us to bear up the crosses and to follow him. He is also not a disciple. The third is the one who goes to church every Sunday but lives differently during weekdays. Finally, the one who preaches the good news but lives bad news in life situations. That's a simple answer. So my dear friends in Jesus Christ, on this 23rd Sunday in ordinary time, you see which lessons that can be learned from these readings. First, to be a disciple of Christ, that is a lifelong commitment. Second, disciple knows his engagement with Christ. The third, to become a disciple of Christ is a passional choice. So, my dear friends in Jesus Christ, this Sunday, Christ invites all of us to fulfill these three conditions above. To conclude this 23rd Sunday, let us decide and discern to follow Christ up to the end of our Christian life. May God bless you all.